Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we are going to be unpacking this article with a very interesting title, 99% of men don't know women are checking this out.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
You know?
That's a title.
It's a title, all right?
It is. It definitely gets your attention.
It does. It's very clickbaity.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Once you get past that headline,
Yeah.
there is some really insightful stuff in here
Yeah.
about first impressions and how we perceive each other.
Exactly. I think, the title is definitely geared towards men, but when you actually read the article, it's about a lot of little details that can really make a difference in how people see you, and that goes for anyone.
Right. It's not just about attracting women like the title might suggest.
Right.
It's about putting your best self forward in any situation.
Absolutely. And, there's this great quote in the article that really sums it up. It's not about changing who you are. It's about putting your best self forward, showing that you respect yourself and those around you.
I love that. And it's so true. Like, none of this is about trying to be someone you're not.
Right.
It's about making an effort to show up as the best version of yourself.
And you know what's interesting about that? Like, from a psychological perspective, humans are just wired to make these snap judgments based on what they see.
Yeah.
It's like back in the day, our ancestors had to quickly assess if someone was a friend or foe, and those split-second decisions could be life or death.
Wow. So those first impressions are really everything.
They really are, and this article goes into some specifics about what people notice right away, and it might surprise you. For example, it says that women really pay attention to a guy's shoes.
Really? Shoes? I wouldn't have thought of that.
It might seem strange at first, but think about it. Your shoes can say a lot about you. Are they clean? Are they scuffed up? Do they even fit the situation?
Interesting.
All of those things factor into that first impression you make.
So it's not about having the most expensive shoes, it's about sending the right message.
Exactly. It's about showing that you care about the details.
Okay, so shoes, we got it.
Ah,
Now here's where I thought things got really interesting. The article talks about how you treat other people, especially service staff.
oh yeah, that's a big one.
Like, that's a huge red flag or green flag depending on how you act right.
Absolutely. And there's actually a psychological term for this. It's called the halo effect.
The halo effect.
Yeah, basically it means that if we see someone being positive in one area, we tend to assume they have other positive qualities too.
Oh, so if you're nice to your waiter, people will think you're nice in general.
Exactly. And the reverse is true too. If you're rude to a waiter, it makes people wonder, is that how they treat everyone?
Wow. I never thought about it that way, but it makes total sense.
It's all about those subconscious cues we're sending out all the time.
So we've talked about how you present yourself and how you treat others, but what about some of those things we don't always think about? Like, the article mentions a genuine smile being a big plus.
Oh, a smile can go a long way. Did you know that smiling actually triggers these things called mirror neurons in the other person's brain?
Mirror neurons.
Yeah, and it can instantly make them feel more at ease and more likely to smile back.
Wow, so smiling is like this secret weapon for connection.
It really is. And it goes beyond just romantic attraction, too. Smiling can make you more approachable and likable in any situation.
I love that. Okay, here's another one that I thought was fascinating. The article talks about scent. It says that a clean, fresh smell is key, not necessarily dousing yourself in cologne.
It is interesting how scent works, because our sense of smell is wired into some pretty primal parts of our brain.
Really?
Yeah, and it goes all the way back to evolution. Back then, scent played a huge role in choosing a mate. It signaled things like health and genetic compatibility.
Oh, wow. I have no idea.
So even today, a pleasant, subtle scent can make someone more memorable, and an overpowering one can be a total turnoff.
It's like this hidden language we're not even aware of.
Exactly. It's fascinating how much is going on beneath the surface.
Okay, now this one really surprised me. The article calls out hands and lips as something people notice.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Would never have thought about that.
Well, think about it. When we're talking to someone, our eyes naturally go to their face, and lips are a big part of that.
Right?
So dry, chapped lips can signal that someone isn't taking care of themselves, while smooth, healthy lips are subconsciously linked to vitality.
Makes sense. And what about hands?
Well, touch is a fundamental part of human connection, right? We shake hands, we hold hands.
Yeah.
So seeing someone's hands gives us a sense of their overall hygiene and how they care for themselves.
It's all about those subtle cues again.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is that it's not about striving for some unattainable level of perfection. It's about showing that you care about yourself, and that translates into confidence and self-respect.
I love that. And I'm sure our listeners are already picking up on some things they might not have noticed before. Let's dive into some more of these fascinating details after a quick break.
Sounds good. I'm ready for more. It's really amazing all these little things we do that send messages, you know?
Yeah, it's like we're speaking a whole other language without even realizing it.
Exactly. And the best part is, like, this isn't just about dating or making a good first impression on someone you're attracted to.
Right.
A lot of this advice can be applied to any area of life.
Totally. Like, think about a job interview.
Oh, yeah.
You're trying to put your best foot forward and show them you're the right person for the job.
Absolutely. And all those little details we talked about, they all come into play in that situation, too. You know how you dress, your handshake, your overall demeanor?
And the article makes a good point. It's not just about making a good first impression for the first few minutes either. You
Yeah.
have to be consistent.
Oh, for sure. Consistency is key. Think about it. If you're super charming and attentive at the beginning of an interaction, but then you become dismissive or disrespectful later on,
Uh-oh.
it totally undermines that initial good impression.
Right, so it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. Your actions have to match your words.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we've learned so far. We talked about the importance of putting effort into your appearance, like paying attention to details like your shoes.
Right. And we talked about how treating other people with respect, especially those in service roles, creates that positive halo effect.
Right, which makes people more likely to see you in a good light.
And we talked about how smiling and even scent can tap into our subconscious and influence how we perceive each other.
And we uncovered the often overlooked importance of well-maintained hands and lips.
It's amazing how these small details can communicate so much.
It really is. Okay, now I want to go back to this idea of the halo effect for a second.
Okay.
Such a powerful concept.
Sure.
What are some other ways that the halo effect might play out in everyday life?
That's a great question. Well, you know, the halo effect pops up everywhere. For instance, let's say you meet someone new and they tell you they volunteer at an animal shelter.
Wow.
That act of kindness might lead you to assume that they're also compassionate and trustworthy.
Yeah, I could see that.
So one positive action can color our entire perception of a person.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And it works the other way too, right?
Exactly. Like, imagine you overhear someone gossiping about a friend behind their back.
Ooh, not good.
Right. It makes you question their character overall.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think twice about trusting them.
So it's important to be mindful of our own actions and how they might be perceived by others.
It makes you really think about the impressions you're making on people.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives, you know? It's all about expanding our awareness and understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. Okay, getting back to the article for a moment.
Yeah.
It specifically talks about men trying to make a good impression on women.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, how much of this advice do you think applies across genders? Could women use these same tips to make a good impression on men?
That's an excellent point. And you know, while the article is written from a certain perspective, I think the underlying principles are pretty universal. Like, everyone makes those snap judgments based on visual cues and behavior.
So ultimately, it's not about playing games or trying to manipulate anyone?
No, not at all. It's about being authentic and showing respect for yourself and others.
Exactly. And that's something that resonates with everyone, regardless of gender.
It's about being the best version of yourself and letting that shine through.
I love that.
Yeah.
This conversation has given me so much to think about. I'm already catching myself noticing things I never paid attention to before.
I know, me too. It's amazing how once you start looking for these subtle cues, you see them everywhere.
It's like a whole new world has opened up.
Exactly. It's like you've unlocked a secret code.
And makes you realize just how much we communicate without even realizing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But hey, before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
we should probably talk about that part in the article about lips.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. We touched on it earlier, but it's worth revisiting.
Right. Remember we were saying that when we talk to someone, our eyes naturally gravitate towards their face?
Right,
And lips are a focal point?
for sure. And the article pointed out that dry, chapped lips can be a turnoff because they can be perceived as a sign of neglecting your health.
Right, while smooth, hydrated lips are subconsciously associated with vitality and well-being.
Yeah, and you know what? I think taking care of your lips can actually boost your own confidence too.
Oh, absolutely. When you feel good about yourself, it shows.
Yeah, I never really connected lip care with confidence before, but it makes sense.
It's all about those little details adding up to create a positive overall impression.
Right. And speaking of details,
What did I miss?
the article also mentioned something else that surprised me.
Well, let me guess. Hands.
You got it.
Haha! I knew it. Now, I bet you're thinking, what do hands have to do with attraction?
Honestly, yeah,
But when you really think about it, hands are a big part of how we experience the world.
that's true. We shake hands when we meet someone new.
Yeah.
We use our hands to talk. We even hold hands to show affection.
And all of those interactions provide subtle cues about who we are.
Okay, so what are some of the things people might pick up on when it comes to hands?
Well, first and foremost, cleanliness is key.
Oh, yeah, of course. No one wants to shake a hand that's dirty or
Yeah.
grimy.
Exactly. That's just basic hygiene.
Yeah.
But beyond cleanliness, people also notice things like the condition of your skin and nails.
Really?
Yeah, dry, cracked skin can be a turnoff, while smooth, well-moisturized hands tend to be more appealing.
Huh, I never thought about it that way.
And don't forget about nails. Bitten or unkempt nails can signal nervousness or a lack of self-care.
Makes sense.
But clean, trimmed nails project confidence and attention to detail.
It all goes back to those subtle cues.
It does. And what's so fascinating is that these cues often operate on a subconscious level.
Right. We might not be consciously thinking, wow, their nails look great, but those details are registering in our brain.
Exactly, and influencing our overall impression. It's like we're putting together a puzzle piece by piece to form an image of the person we're interacting with.
That's a great way to put it. Each piece of the puzzle contributes to the final picture.
And some pieces are just more noticeable than others.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I'm seeing the world in a whole new way. But before we wrap things up, I want to get your expert take on one last thing. Okay, so we've been talking about all these subtle cues and how people pick them up on, but is there a risk of overthinking all this?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like, could we get so caught up in trying to send the right signals that we lose sight of just being genuine?
That's a great point, and it's something to be mindful of for sure. The goal here isn't to become some kind of master manipulator,
Right.
like trying to trick people into liking you. It's more about being aware of how your actions and appearance might be perceived.
Yeah.
So you can present yourself authentically and confidently.
So it's not about being fake, it's about being your best self.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, you wouldn't show up to a job interview in your pajamas.
Right.
You put some effort into choosing an outfit that makes you feel confident and presents you in a professional light.
Yeah.
It's the same idea, but for all areas of life.
I like that analogy. It makes it seem a lot less intimidating. So to wrap things up, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from this deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we're constantly communicating, even when we don't realize it.
Yeah.
Our clothes, our body language, our scent, even the way we treat a waiter,
It all matters.
it all adds up to create this impression of who we are. So by becoming more aware of these subtle cues, we can make sure we're sending the message we want to send.
Right, and doing it in a way that feels authentic and true to ourselves.
Exactly. That's the key.
Wow, this whole conversation has been so eye-opening. It's like I'm seeing the world with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, me too. It's pretty amazing how much is going on beneath the surface.
In every interaction we have. And the best part is now our listener can start noticing these things too. It's like we've cracked open a secret code.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe they'll even start picking up on subtle cues that we didn't even talk about today.
Ooh, that would be interesting. So to our listener out there, we want to hear from you. What are some of the things you've noticed about people that have made a lasting impression? Share your observations with us. We'd love to hear your insights. Until next time, keep diving deep.